So as we get ready for the playoffs to start in both of these regions, this being North America and Europe, I thought now would actually be a decent time to start taking a look at some of the numbers. Obviously, numbers are something that people constantly track over time, but numbers are also something that you need a decent sample size for, a decent data set before you can start drawing too many conclusions, before you can start reading into it too much. But so far from what we've seen in split one, or the winter split of both NA and EU, is that EU is absolutely crushing North America. EU does have some of their own issues, some of their own worries, some of their own concerns, some kind of decline overall, but things are looking a lot better over in Europe and looking much more bleak over in North America. And obviously we can debate and, till we're blue in the face about what these reasons are, or what North America could do, or if it's too late, or if NA is just dead or whatever. But we do have this tweet from Sheep Esports where they said, LEC viewership peaks at 4 times that of its North American rival in the first round of Split 1 per esports charts. Both regions have seen a slight decline, but with playoffs nearing, it's too early to draw conclusions. Now, obviously, all around the world, we see big spikes in playoffs, especially late in the playoffs, especially during big rivalries, big matchups, stuff like that in the playoffs. So the story is not totally told on how Split 1 is going to perform for both these regions, but I think it is too early to draw conclusions about what the split has looked like overall for NA or EU or whatever. But when you're comparing the two and putting them head to head, which they're always going to be, they have so many historical ties together, previously being like the LCS and the EU LCS and NA LCS and all that stuff. And also just, the English speaking rivalries and the crossover in fan base and viewership and all that stuff. But yeah, obviously right now the EU is absolutely kind of just towering over North America in a lot of ways, and yeah, it's not looking so great for North America. So I want to dive into this article a little bit to see what Sheep Esports has to say about this. The peak viewership for the Koi versus K-Corp match in 2025 was 20% lower than that in 2024. Obviously, that is not necessarily a great sign in and of itself for EU. The LEC winter 2025 regular season has come to an end, and early conclusions can now be drawn about its viewership in a format identical to last year's winter split. So that's good. At least we have, things to compare, because a lot of other regions saw format changes, pretty significant format changes in 2025 versus 2024. EU so far staying mostly the same. The first 3 weeks saw 10 teams compete in 9 best-of-1 matches each. While it's impossible to compare these figures to the split average since winter 2025 is not yet finished, we can observe that peak viewership numbers have been notably different compared to the beginning of last year. For comparison, in 2024, the Mad Lions Koi faced K-Corp in the first week, which became the second highest peak of the entire split, reaching 741,000 viewers. This year, however, the same matchup has once again been the most watched for the regular season, but only drew right around 600,000 viewers, marking a drop of approximately 20% according to esports charts. So here we have some of those top matches. It seems like across the board, the top viewed matches kind of dropped off. Again, 800,000 for G2 against Mad versus 600,000 being the peak, but then even the number 5 place match going from 600,000 Fnatic versus K-Corp to 600,000 to 500,000 Rogue versus K-Corp. So I don't know, kind of interesting there. Why is this the case? Again, there's probably a million different reasons. And things are going to come and go. Obviously, you can't just have, permanent growth. And obviously, esports and League of Legends esports and League of Legends, the game in general, not necessarily in the best place it's ever been right now. Not because the game's bad or whatever, but just also the game's so old, not really bringing as many new players as it once did. There's just all these issues kind of going around with the whole ecosystem right now. The offseason at the end of 2024 is very loud and generated significant buzz, raising hopes for some of the most popular teams such as KC, Koi, Fnatic to finally challenge for the top spot in the league, ending G2's long reign of dominance. While these teams have started the split strong, peak viewership numbers remain lower. This decline can be attributed to a few factors. One potential explanation is viewer fatigue with the format. The winter split, unlike other splits this year, features teams competing in best-of-1 formats, which are primarily aimed at determining playoff seeds with no direct elimination or qualification matches. The goal is simply to qualify 8 out of the 10 teams for the playoffs. Again, that's very, very low stakes. When you know only 2 teams are going to be eliminated, you don't really care that much. Also, I know a lot of other regions have already started the Fearless Draft, but obviously with EU having best-of-1s, they can't have started the Fearless Draft just yet, which some people are definitely disappointed in. Especially this year, it seems like K-Corp and Koi were almost certainly to qualify early on. As a result, many of the matches lack the intense drama that might have otherwise drawn in larger audiences. And I think that is definitely a design flaw of this format. I think if you have a format that gets people to not care about matches very, very early on, if you can clinch the playoffs after just a couple of games, or virtually clinch the playoffs just after a couple of games, I would argue that's a pretty bad format. And I have always in general said, formats where you have 8 out of the 10 teams making the playoffs of the bracket or whatever, that's pretty bad and doesn't really make too much sense. Like, there's just no stakes at that point. There's not really, what are we doing? It's just kind of warm-up games. Two possible factors behind the decline. Two main factors explain the drop in viewership. First, last year, K-Corp's debut in the LEC created significant buzz. Obviously, you know, they're breaking onto the scene now. The second year, it's not as new, it's not as shiny, whatever. This entrance was an exciting narrative, and hype surrounding the roster of 2025 remains high, especially with the rise of Callist, the top rookie prospect and frontrunner for the best rookie of the split title. However, the Twitch landscape was slightly different last year. The Stream for Humanity charity event, for instance, drew a large portion of the French-speaking community away from the first weekend of competition, potentially impacting viewership numbers. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that because, again, it's not like we just saw viewership down in week one. We've seen, like I said, viewership down for all the matches kind of across the split so far. So, yeah, could they have gotten some more viewers if there was less competition? Yeah, sure. But if you're saying that's only something that happened in the first week, that's not something we saw in the, obviously, weeks after that. Secondly, in Spain, the absence of renowned streamer Ibai from co-streaming due to time and health concerns has had a noticeable impact. That's a big thing. That definitely could have, you know, obviously a large impact. Obviously, Ibai is a massive creator that a lot of people are going to watch through. Ibai's absence led to Sergio stepping in, which influenced viewership numbers from the Spanish-speaking community. This change could potentially affect the future global viewership figures for winter 2025. Last year, the highest peak was reached in the finals between G2 and Mad Lions, which is 830,000, with 39% of those tuning in through Ibai's channel. That's crazy how much of the percentage viewership you had. The combination of these factors, the best of one format, shifts in streamer involvement, and changing audience landscapes has likely contributed. Yeah, I could definitely see all that. For comparison, the LEC is still performing much better than the NA League, just throwing that out there. Indeed, the LCS, now rebranded as the LTA North, and intended, now the LCS now rebranded as LTA North and intended to integrate more with the newly formed LTA South, has not yet seen the expected benefits. To make a fair comparison, with just a few days of competition, the high viewership peak recorded so far was during the first best of three between FlyQuest and Shopify Rebellion, reaching 148,000. That is just so sad. This marks a 23% decline from last year's regular season peak, which occurred in a best of one between Cloud9 and Shopify Rebellion during week 2. While both leagues are experiencing a similar decline, the gap in popularity remains undeniable. The LEC's peak viewership is currently almost 4 times higher than that of the LTAN at the start of the year. Given these numbers, it's understandable why the North American League is now allowing teams to stream their scrims in an attempt once again to breathe new life into the scene. So yeah, I don't know. Again, why is EU dominating over the LCS? Again, the LCS has actually made it further at Worlds in the past 2 years. Neither team has really had any kind of meaningful run, so it's not like, you know, there's been too much hype and excitement built into that. I think obviously NA has had many problems over the past couple of years. I think, you know, the VC funding bubble hit North America a lot harder. NA had built much of its, you know, fanfare and everything based on high spending and these massive imports and all that stuff. They kind of killed off a lot of their native, you know, player base and development structures and all that, while Europe, even while getting players stolen away, had these ERLs building up and you know, the content creators building up and getting hype and excitement through that, where NA has not done as good of a job of stuff like that. The game just seems to be more popular over in Europe. Obviously, it's going to be a big deal. I don't know. There's so many issues. I think the LCS and NA and everything has made a lot of bad business decisions and management decisions, but also some of the stuff has been out of their control. But either way, you know, slight declines across the board is obviously not a great sign, but I don't think it's totally shocking. But the fact that Europe is just absolutely dominating North America is something that I think is, you know, not likely to change anytime soon. I know that it does seem like over in NA they're going to keep trying to make these changes, but at some point, you know, I think things are looking a little bit too bleak. It's getting really desperate, and at some point, you know, it is what it is, and yeah, is fusing up with the LTA South, maybe going to bump up those numbers a little bit for the playoffs, because obviously you're going to have South America viewership coming in. Yeah, sure, but it's still not really going to have anything to do with the North American side, and I don't know when stuff's going to get better, how it's going to get better, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. If you guys have any ideas, anything like that, whatever. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.